these days in the history of the tournament.
Today, the fairy tale continues.
At the buzzer! Count it!
Cinderella is ready to go.
A huge upset.
One of the all-time shockers.
The drama.
Are you kidding me?
The emotion. The pride. Win, and you go to the Sweet 16.
Put on your dancing shoes.
This is the road to New Orleans.
Game over.
Welcome to the madness.
The field of 68 has been whittled to 24. By the end of the day today, we'll have our Sweet 16. Welcome to the road to the Final Four here on CBS, everyone. Hi, I'm Greg Gumbel in New York, joined by Greg Anthony, Kenny Smith, Charles Barkley, and our special studio guest, St. John's head coach Steve Lavin, who has been to 5, count them, 5 Sweet 16s. What does that feel like?
Well, it's been a while. We made the tournament last year, but the last Sweet 16 was in 2002, so it's been a while. We want to get back there next year.
All right, let's check out.
I like you guys, so I want to get back there next year.
Yeah, let's check out this afternoon's viewing guide, brought to you by Dove Men Plus Care. Call ** Dove Men to access the viewing guide on your mobile phone. Coming up in just a few minutes here on CBS, North Carolina State will square off against Georgetown. That'll be followed at 2:45 Eastern Time by St. Louis going up against #1 Michigan State. Then at 5:15 Eastern, Creighton takes on top seed North Carolina on CBS. An hour later, we'll see Norfolk State battle Florida on TNT. And at 7:10 Eastern Time, Ohio will collide with South Florida on TBS. Our last wave of games tips at around 7:40 Eastern Time with Lehigh facing Xavier on CBS. An hour later, Purdue will tackle Kansas on TNT. And finally, at about 9:40 Eastern, Cincinnati will meet Florida State. That game on TBS. But first up on the docket is North Carolina State against Georgetown. Who wins this game and why, Kenny?
Well, I just think the versatility of North Carolina State is going to be tough for Georgetown to handle. I just always say that it's difficult to practice against something that you don't have. And they have versatile forwards in C.J. Leslie and Richard Howard that are a little bit unconventional. They like to put the ball on the floor. They have a great box game, but also play on the perimeter. So I think that might be the difference. And I've said it all along. I thought Brown for North Carolina State was the second best guard in the ACC at the point other than Kendall Marshall.
Yeah, I like Georgetown in this game. Good friend of Mark Gottfried. We worked together at UCLA. It's nice to see him back on the sidelines. He's done a wonderful job, but I think Georgetown more balanced in terms of inside and outside. When you look at Hollis Thompson, Jason Clark, those two can fill it from distance. And, of course, the Princeton, now Georgetown spread court offense, the cutting, the spacing, it's a precision-oriented offense. They're airtight offensively, and John Thompson, of course, no stranger to the tournament.
You make a great point. I like Georgetown as well. That offense, Kenny talked about seeing things, going against things you haven't seen. They haven't seen an offense like that where you have 5 guys who have the ability to really play above the free throw line. That's going to be one thing. And then the other thing for me, when you talk about this Georgetown team, this is the best, I think, defensive team John Thompson III's had really since in his tenure. He's had more talented teams, but defensively, these guys are more in sync. I think they will create a lot of matchup problems defensively for NC State. I think it'll be a good game, but I'll go with Georgetown.
And earlier this morning, we were talking about St. Louis going up against Michigan State. Is that going to be a tough game for Michigan State?
I think it is, because Rick Majerus is one of the more underrated coaches. He does a fantastic job, obviously going back to his Utah days. But Michigan State's never going to blow anybody out. So this game is actually going to play into St. Louis' hands. I like Michigan State to win the game, but I wouldn't be totally shocked, because this is going to be just a muck-up game.
All right, we got all day long to talk basketball, but coming up now, North Carolina State and Georgetown. We will see you back here at the half. Enjoy the game, everyone, here on CBS.
What a Sunday in Columbus, Ohio. will go from 24 to 16. The ACC and the Big East are represented. North Carolina State and mighty Georgetown of the Big East. The Wolfpack looking to advance, as well as the Hoyas, and they'll take on the winner of Purdue and Kansas later today in Omaha, Nebraska. Moments ago, first-year coach Mark Gottfried with his team at NC State.
Here's the deal. I told you this the other day, and I believe with all my heart. You're good enough. You're good enough to do this. You're good enough to advance. There's a plane waiting for you to take you to St. Louis. There's hotel rooms waiting for you. There's a game waiting for you to be played in St. Louis. Let's go. Here we go. Together on three. 1, 2, 3. Together. Let's go, fellas. Let's go.
17 times as a player, assistant, and head coach. Mark Gottfried's been here, Mike Kaminsky, and those words mean a great deal. When you know you've got C.J. Leslie in the paint, the head coach can be confident.
Maybe the best player in the ACC in the second half of the season at 6'8". He is very explosive inside, can face up, finish at the rim. Had an understated game against San Diego State yesterday. They need him to score in the 20s against Georgetown.
Georgetown will counter with a freshman of influence, and someone that John Thompson III told us has been emerging since June. Otto
Porter has been terrific, really came in, understands all facets of the game, and again, it's 6'8". He is a tough matchup on the wing, doesn't have three-point range, but loves to post up, gets on the offensive glass. He plays well beyond his years.
No question. When we come back, the entire lineup, the opening tip. It's Georgetown, North Carolina State on CBS. And Leslie with an authoritative flush. Automatic.
Coverage of the NCAA men's basketball tournament is sponsored by Reese's, Bud Light, and by AT&T.
A couple of years in television did not hurt his speech-making, did it? There's Mark Gottfried, formerly of Alabama, took them to the Elite Eight back in 2004. His starting five looks this way. Lorenzo Brown runs the show with C.J. Williams, the sharpshooter from Indiana, Scott Wood, C.J. Leslie, and Richard Howell, his bookends on the block. Jason Clark is a leader, along with Otto Porter, whom we mentioned. Hollis Thompson, Nate Lubick, outstanding passers, and of course everything runs through Henry Sims, the senior from Baltimore. For John Thompson III, now in his 8th year, hard to believe he's been there that long and has already taken his team to one Final Four back in 2007. Our officials for this afternoon's game, 3 of the best: Mike Eads, Ted Valentine, and Doug Sermons. The opening tap is controlled to the Hoyas.
And they are deceptively long out there, Tim. 3 6'8" and a 6'10" in the starting lineup, and Jason Clark, the shortest amongst them, at 6'2". Very disciplined in the half-court run. John Thompson III's take on the Princeton offense.
This is where it normally happens, though, right after 14 touches it. Sims either initiates or
takes a double dribble.
Yeah, he did. He sure did. Mark Gottfried pointing that out. With the clock winding down, Porter puts it in.
They get away with that miscue, but that's what Porter does at 6'8". He can elevate in the lane and score.
Howell was outstanding at or around the elbow in the second-round game that we had back on Friday, and that's an offensive foul on C.J. Leslie, and that will be a concern for Mark Gottfried today. Early foul difficulty for his front line.
You see right here, and the one dribble right there, and sometimes it's so long in between that there's the second dribble, and fortunately got away with it for Georgetown and a score on it, but for C.J. Leslie, a tough start right there. They need him in the ball game, and the thing is, Tim, that Georgetown has the length up front to guard him.
Gottfried got an acknowledgement from Mike Eads that it was missed. Thompson Leaving it for Clark.
This offense much better when they're hitting their perimeter shots. It opens up, it forces people to defend.
Porter again, this time from downtown, and it's 5-0 Georgetown.
That's not a big part of his game, only 21%. To amplify that to me, what it does is it forces you to come out and it opens up passing lanes within that Princeton offense.
The other issue too, Mike, and you said this the other day, and it's probably even more important against North Carolina State. The Hoyas with their offense are tremendous front runners. They get a lead of any kind, and it seems larger than it really is.
Well, that offense is in general, and the reason why is because you have to chase and overplay, and that's when you're really playing into their hands.
That was a walk by Thompson. And North Carolina State gets it back.
That's the thing, we talk about their length, but for NC State, everybody in the starting lineup is between 6'5" and 6'8". So there's some size there as well, especially in the backcourt at Lorenzo Brown at 6'5".
I thought it was interesting to hear Mark in his closing moments to his team leaving. Still that need on his part to make his team aware that they do belong, that they really ought to be here. Always talented, but never on this stage. A veteran team left him by Sidney Lowe. But he galvanized them without question. The first good move, putting Lorenzo Brown at the point. There's Howell with the putback. Comes up empty, and Lubick rebounds.
He really dominated things against San Diego State inside, but he's going to see much bigger players against Georgetown here. A good offensive rebound, but just no space to finish.
2.5 minutes gone by, and NC State is yet to scratch. Howell looks a little early jitters, unable to hit that shot inside and unable to corral that rebound as you look at our Infinity Coaches Spotlight on Mark Godfrey.
And it's an inspired hire by Debbie Yao, and she predicted big things. The athletic director down at NC State, and Mark Godfrey has delivered the goods with this team.
No doubt about it. Validated her decision. And a lot of sitting coaches, including Shaka Smart, passed on the job. Wood. And the Indiana sharpshooter knocks down the first 3 ball for North Carolina State.
And that's a huge bonus for NC State. When Scott Wood is making threes, life is a lot easier for this team offensively.
I don't know how many times Mark has told us when he gets 15, we're so much better than when he gets 7 or 8 in a game.
It's one thing that NC State was very concerned with, the wings getting posted up inside. That time Thompson not coming up with it, but they put a lot of pressure on Wood and C.J. Williams to defend.
What this does with Wood hitting shots is allows Leslie to be solo covered. That one's knocked away. Porter coming over to give some help.
And we talked the size up front, and Lubick doing a nice job staying in front. Almost got another offensive foul right there. But then Porter there to clean things up.
Leslie gives it up to Lorenzo Brown. Beautiful ball fake. Teardrop won't go. Pulled down by Lubick. Sims over Howell. That's an offensive foul. Wave it off.
Again, we talk about people trying to get in foul trouble, and if you're NC State, you want to try to attack Henry Sims. He's so much a part of their offense. He's a point center out there on the floor. And this was a good job of Howell stepping in and taking the charge.
You really believe it might be a case of the backup post players that could be the real difference in this game, ultimately, if it becomes a battle of attrition?
Well, if he comes in, and usually Lubick will slide over, and he gave them good minutes. He's a better passer than Sims is. Maybe not as good offensively.
Howell again in traffic, unable to get it to go.
Yeah, trying to put some pressure on Sims to pick up that second foul.
Hollis Thompson brings it up. You'll see a variety of Georgetown players bring it up. Their point guard by committee. In the half court, it's Sims that directs most of the lethal traffic once he gets the ball entered into the post.
Everybody, Tim, has to be skilled. And to play for John Todd, you have to be able to pass and handle and do all the things to make this offense run.
Again, you see with the shot clock under 10, up at the high post, it's Sims with the ball. That's the way they play at Georgetown. Wood has North Carolina State's only hoop. The rest of the team is 0 for 6. NC State and Georgetown underway. Get the unique tournament perspective that only CBS Sports College Basketball insiders Jeff Goodman and Gary Parrish can provide, and chat live with our experts throughout the day at cbssports.com. You know, this is an offense that is unique to play against, isn't it?
Well, and NC State's fortunate they played two teams a total of 4 times that run a style. However, Georgetown a lot longer than these teams and a lot more talented, and the difference is it runs through this guy, Henry Sims, right here, and also because of their length, a lot of Princeton offenses are predicated on the bounce pass and back doors. These guys throw over the top a lot, and they will post up their big wings.
Greg Anthony in our studio was mentioning that in the pregame with Charles Barkley and Kenny the Jet Smith, that Mark Godfrey does believe having played against it does help, but there's absolutely no denying that Georgetown's talent that runs it, you could say, as Rick Pitino did, this is Princeton on steroids to some extent.
Well, and it's also, too, Tim, it's like the West Coast offense in football. Everybody's got their different take on it, and John Thompson will tell you that. 3 on the shot clock, so they had to launch in a bailout foul against Lorenzo Brown. And Mark Gottfried in anguish over that. Take a look at this, and no question he got him. That looked like a pretty good block right there. He got him on the hand shortly after the block was made. No doubt Mark's a little hot about it. Right, that's again, you try to take advantage of your length, and Brown at 6'5", Clark only at 6'2". Very tough to block a jump shot. Well, one of the reasons that Mark has instilled confidence in his team, he fights for his club. He's been one of the more outspoken bench coaches within the ACC with regard to game management all season long. Yeah, and he's also, Tim, in talking to the players yesterday, he's really brought a lot of structure to this team, something they didn't have last year. He's brought a lot of John Wooden's offensive principles, and really they're unique in that they can score at every single position. G.J. Williams has come onto the floor. Leslie's got it now. Taking it right into that traffic, and we got a tie ball with the arrow to NC State. Mark Gottfried's up saying, where's the call down at the other end? And it has been tough sledding early on. And that's a good block right on the top. And Hollis Thompson again has the length and size to play with Leslie inside. Wolfpack still looking for their first 2-point field goal. They're 0 for 6. And this is what was impressive yesterday. They really played a tough zone against Belmont 2 days ago, and they are so long. They can cover inside and also out on the perimeter. Howell, a little scoop to the hoop by Richard Howell. He only had 2 misses in the game against San Diego State. He started off 0 of 3, so maybe a confidence builder for him, receiving right in the middle of that zone. Trying to disrupt Sims. Just missed the pilfer. Sims in traffic. That's another offensive foul. Well done by Leslie. Yeah, 2 of them. He's out of control off the dribble, and a good job stepping in. That means he'll go to the bench.
The Georgetown fouls on 14.
So he'll become a spectator for much of this first half, his second foul. Nice job, Leslie, that time sliding over. You get a big who's turning his back that time. It's a perfect opportunity to step in and take the charge. Great deal of depth on this Georgetown team, but they miss Sims, make no doubt. The offense does not run as well when he's not on the floor. Williams off the curl. Lubick comes down with a rebound. They really need quality minutes from Lubick with Sims out. Whittington on the wing. He rattles home a 3. Georgetown by 6. Just over 6 minutes deep. Talked about it, the more they were 5 of 12 in the game against Belmont from 3. Howell again muscling under. Thompson coming over to provide some defensive help. And Clark, the foul spotted underneath against Greg Whittington.
Fouls on number 2, Greg Whittington. His first.
There's the look, and very close to a travel right there. And that's a call a lot of times won't be made on a 3, Tim, out on the perimeter. The old step-in 3? Yeah. Richard Howell at the free throw line. We had an opportunity. I know yesterday is your favorite day. We get to talk with at least 3 of the players on each of the teams, and to see how much he's grown in just the last few weeks as this team grew in confidence
in the latter stages of February.
Well, you saw snippets of it last year, and but you know, you can really tell that he really connected with Mark Gottfried, and it has been that way with everybody on this team, and that's why they've been so successful this year.
He said he was actually recruited by Mark while he was still at Alabama, so he was acquainted with him. There's Porter out there. Whittington, the last to touch it.
Well, there you can see, and that's the problem that NC State faces with Hollis Thompson in that offense. They dove him to the block, and he posted up on Wood. They had to help. They got an open look from the three, but we're not able to knock it down.
Hoyas have certainly established the pace of play, to no one's surprise. With Deshaun Painter now in the game, we'll see how that backup post player does. Number 0 for NC State. Porter again with a loose ball situation, and now we've got a tie ball situation as Lorenzo Brown tied it up. The error is to Georgetown. Every 50-50 play, Porter is absolutely all over. His instincts, the freshman from Sikeston, Missouri, greater than any JT3 says he's ever seen.
Ron is also a sponge, too, that he tells him things one time, and he absorbs it, learns it, and then moves on, and is really concerned. A lot of times freshmen aren't too interested in defense or a lot of other aspects of the game, but he excels at all phases.
Markel Starks is coming to the game. Thompson sits down for Georgetown, and Alex Johnson for North Carolina State, number 3, has entered the game for North Carolina State. He is the senior grad school transfer from Cal State Bakersfield, who's really been a plus for the Wolfpack. Starks with the dump down. Mikael Hopkins also into the game, and he draws the contact. Tonight on 60 Minutes, a report on a medical mystery called face blindness. Tonight, only CBS.
Didn't have a lot of time coming into the tournament, but was effective again when Sims had foul trouble in their first game against Belmont, and in a pretty aggressive move down there on the low block.
See the numbers on Hopkins. Sometimes the minutes and numbers can be deceiving. He gave them really quality minutes in the game with Belmont. Young man from Hyattsville, Maryland, by way of the Matha. And again, one of those interchangeable parts that you have on the Georgetown wing. Painter's got it, Mike, right where he wants it.
Well, talk about a guy who gave good minutes in the second round against San Diego State. There was a stretch in the second half where Howell was in foul trouble, and Deshaun Painter really came in and played at a high level. Anytime you receive with 2 feet in the paint, it puts a lot of pressure on the defense, and Hopkins just that was just too easy of a catch.
Talk about improvements over time as the season went on for the Norfolk, Virginia native. Deshaun Painter has really been a great deal of help for North Carolina State.
Well, he's figured out where he can score. He's not a back-to-the-basket guy per se. He's a very good face-up jump shooter. They like to get him at the free throw line and in the short corners. That's where he operates the best.
Porter, we have a foul off the ball spotted by Ted Valentine. We do. Timeout, 11:47 remaining. Georgetown leads by 4.
Come on, Hoyas!
Watch every 2012 March Madness game live on your computer, iPad, iPhone, or select Android phones with NCAA March Madness Live. Visit ncaa.com/March Madness for more information. Mike, let's take a look now at our Powerade Power Through Performer.
Well, we talked about it that Richard Howell, a terrific game against San Diego State, 22 points, 10 of 12 shooting from the floor, so very efficient in that role. It's been a different story today, though, Tim. 1 of 4 so far from the field, 4 points for him.
Yeah, you can see the intensity Orlando early there, sitting next to him, one of the outstanding assistants on Mark Gottfried's team. And I think that being here on this stage in this moment is still so new, even to a veteran team. And I think you've seen it in both his play and C.J. Leslie.
Well, and they can, Georgetown can make you play nervous too with their defense.
Clark.
Right, it's going to be awfully tough to keep pace with Georgetown if they continue to hit at this rate from the three-point line. 3 of 5 now.
Alex Johnson now running the point for North Carolina State.
Let's see if Lorenzo Brown's freed up to be more of a scorer.
Wood didn't quite get the ball set where he wanted there. Brown again into the painted area, finds Painter, baseline extended. The rebound to Porter.
A very compact man-to-man that time by Georgetown. There were just no driving angles.
Mark again, this one off the front iron, and C.J. Leslie corrals the long rebound. Nothing in transition for NC State, and you can tell they're really struggling without having those opportunities.
Well, it was when you're shooting at a high level like Georgetown is right now, it's tough to get the ball out of the basket and run. They haven't gotten any turnovers either, no steals.
Wood. Lorenzo Brown trying to save it, pushed out of bounds. Markel Starks, the likely guilty party here.
See right there, a good step back three, and for the bigs, a good show that time, but a little bit late. Jason Clark, 32% from three. Not a great three-point shooting team, Tim. In general, 34% for Georgetown, but today it's been a weapon.
Starks did get that foul, his first. NC State shot 52% in the first half on Friday, and right now they're 2 out of 11 here on Sunday.
There's that zone, the call from the bench that Mark Gottfried getting them into their zone offense.
There's the dump down to Leslie. On Lubick, he's got a quickness advantage, and he's fouled. That should be all night long if Leslie can get that up against Lubick. No way he can check it.
Well, this is where he puts a lot of pressure on you. When he faces up like that, he's so quick. You see the grab of the jersey right there, and that's a tough cover inside. And, you know, if you're playing a zone and you're compact, you can't give up the baseline like that. Help is going to come from the top.
That is the 16th foul against Georgetown. As you recall, Sims did pick up his second quite early. So they'll be in the bonus the rest of this half.
A different zone from Syracuse, Tim, but still the ability to cover.
Leslie, we'll see if that gets him on track.
Yeah, good. That was a good find inside, and he's done a better job of moving without the basketball.
Took over 10 minutes for him to get his first hoop. Thompson off the pick from Lubick. Not there. Johnson, smallest guy on the floor, gets the rebound. Pick out for Brown. And again, the Georgetown defense gets back quickly. Painter not there. Really force you to play some defense, don't they?
Nice screen up top.
They really force you to play some D. That's a walk. Thompson moved the pivot foot. Don't forget, coming up at halftime, it's AT&T at the half. Greg, Kenny, Charles, and St. John's coach Steve Lavin will preview the second game here in Columbus between the Billikens and the Spartans for the West spot in the Sweet 16, and the latest tournament news all on AT&T at the half. Ball was kicked. It will be controlled to North Carolina State. Good to see Lavin in good spirits and good health.
Georgetown
Studio 43.
Yeah, and hopefully everything check out A-OK over the summertime, and he's back on the Johnny's bench next year. You know, Tim, it's interesting here early on, the focus of Georgetown's offense. Only 2 field goal attempts inside the arc so far.
Yeah, by the way, like Gottfried, another guy that didn't do badly after a stint in television, going back into coaching, Steve Lavin.
I think for those guys, it's like a sabbatical almost.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of recharge the batteries and rediscover your hunger for being on the bench.
Williams off the curl, not there. Both Jim Herrick employees at that time. And that's a block. It'll go against Lubick. Should mention that Jim, the 95 head coach of UCLA's national championship team, still talks to Mark Gottfried quite often.
Yeah, there's the play, and very active rebound that time by Leslie. It was a long rebound, but he was right there.
Lubick now with his second foul to go along with Sims. Talk about coaching staffs, Mike. How about that one? Lorenzo Romar, Steve Lavin, Mark Gottfried, all with Jim Herrick in 95.
Pretty good coaching lineage right there. It's an issue that Leslie had on the game in their first round game against San Diego State. Only 5 of 9 from the free throw line. This is 1 of 2 there.
Starks along with Porter. Hollis, Thompson, Lubick playing with the 2 fouls, and Whittington the 5 on the floor. And Thompson, beautiful wraparound move into the lane.
Well, and that's a function of that offense. When they dribble at you, you always back cut, and he just followed him right down the lane. There was no help side defense there.
Howell back into the game. They really want to get him off, no question.
Well, and here's the look again at Thompson doing a nice job being very aggressive. The backdoor cut. He goes around Brown and finishes at the rim.
A look at our game summary, G-Man, I think illustrates the good news out of the bad for North Carolina State. They're 3 of 14, yet only down by 6.
Right there, and you've got a couple of turnovers for Georgetown, 4 turnovers there, and a few offensive rebounds for NC State, but they need to be much more efficient in scoring the basketball. But we must say that Georgetown took one of the highest scoring teams in the country in Belmont and held them to 59 points.
Now, you and I are part of a team, along with Otis Livingston here. We're team players. Well, from time to time, even the other team, the officials have to share some conversation and love with one of the other teams on the floor. And Teddy Valentine with a little love tap for John Thompson III there.
You think Coach Thompson the Elder ever got one of those?
Or as the players would refer to him on Georgetown, the big coach. I don't know that the big coach ever would have taken a love tap.
A couple of ACC officials here, and Ted Valentine and Mike Eads. Giving some love to the Big East.
Wood has his pass picked off by Whittington. Thompson not there. And this foul spotted inside. Will go against Scott Wood. Second foul on Scott. There's the big coach.
Had a great conversation with him before the game. He's working with Westwood One Radio here with Wayne Larrabee there on the right.
Got to tell you, you've got to be courageous to work with that voice. Wayne Larrabee's got some of the best pipes in the business. And John Thompson the third was telling us yesterday when we visited, he had been doing a radio show. He just gave it up last month in February. He said he never really listened to it much, but he had heard that about what he would say from time to time, and most often it was a little bit critical.
Well, that's what we were asking about, having his dad call the game. And for one thing, it shortened Big Coach's prep work for this game. He could focus in on NC State.
As much as they have in common, their approaches to the way to play this game at the post position especially diametrically different. C.J. Leslie, a little runner. Not there, but there's Howell on the glass, eating it up.
Maybe he's starting to get a little bit of a rhythm. Looked a little shaky early on, but Richard Howell's hit his last couple of shots. Good shape up inside in the offensive glass.
6 points, 3 boards for Howell, who missed 3 of his first 4 shots from the floor. Markel starts. Nice ball fake. Hopkins on the putback is fouled. That may have been Howell underneath in that restraining area.
Well, this is the thing, that C.J. Leslie has taken better shots this year, and his teammates are able to anticipate them and expect them. And, you know, that time Hopkins went for the block and really had no chance to get it, and that left the glass wide open.
Hopkins came into this tournament side with only a couple of free throws taken during the year at all, as we see Jabril Trowick coming into the game. Trowick replacing Markel Starks. Not many trips to the charity stripe for him, but he does get one of the 2. Georgetown by 7. Just under 7 minutes remaining. Tim Brando, Mike Jaminski, Otis Livingston. Happy to have you with us. We begin our day-long coverage, our collaborative effort on CBS Sports, TNT, TBS. Johnson. Williams, C.J. Williams had it and then was fouled.
Hollis Thompson that time picking up the foul.
And C.J. Williams will get to the stretch. Talk about an active player and a guy that has been a strong contributor for North Carolina State through the years. C.J. Williams has been a quality role player. It's been 30 years since Ed Asner was on the original Hawaii 5-0. Tomorrow he returns. Only CBS.
Well, we talked about how, and I think C.J. Williams falls into that category of most improved in the league in the ACC in his play. Clearly, and you know, you love that story as a senior. Really was not a factor with this team for 3 years, but has been an integral part of this year's team with Mark Gottfried, and to see him make the NCAA tournament, it's a nice way to get it paid off.
Really helps them in the second chance points area. And right now, NC State is staying in the game with that. Leslie with a rejection. Out of bounds, it belongs to Georgetown with 14 on the shot clock.
We talked earlier about the number of threes that Georgetown has been taking. There's been a much more concerted effort to attack the rim as this game is wound down in the first half.
And real Krawick on the wing, and he plays the 9-9 song.
Really nice drive and pitch that time by Jason Clark.
Brown right back at the Hoyas. Relentless in his approach, and that foul spotted underneath. Jason Clark coming over.
There it is. So much what we do. You drew that time, drawing in Alex Johnson that time. And Drowick making him pay inside. But then, and this is, and if you're John Thompson, you can't be happy with the fact that on a made shot like that, NC State able to push it back up your back that time and get to the free throw line so quickly.
I think they had enough of just being lulled to sleep with the pace of play being all with Georgetown. Mark Gottfried, I think, made a point of saying to them, just break it as fast as you can whenever you can. There you see Bobby Lutz, the former Charlotte head coach, also on Mark's staff.
So that's a big part of their success, and Mark told us yesterday about them, and that was his priority, building a quality staff, and he has.
Howell and Leslie keeping it alive on the offensive boards, neither able to convert. Hopkins, that was a beautiful pass from Porter. Out of bounds, it belongs to NC State. I think Hopkins was a little surprised to get that pass as quickly as he did.
Well, outside of Leslie, no real shot blocker in there. Howell at 6'8", and by that time, Hopkins caught it. That's about as good a look as you're going to get inside.
He was a little shocked that that laser came in there so fast. Hollis Thompson takes the seat. Whittington is back on the floor along with Krawick. Hopkins, Jason Clark, and Porter. The alley-oop for Leslie. Not a good idea by Johnson.
Yeah, in the set half court, that is a tough play to convert against Georgetown's length.
Clark is one of those players that makes excellent cuts, as does Whittington. That was a thing of beauty.
Well, this whole offense is predicated on cuts, not dribble drives that time, and they will throw over the top like Hopkins just did.
The lead is up to 10, and NC State looks a bit frazzled. Inside, Leslie finally gets one to fall off the back iron. That was a very big trip, I think, for NC State's confidence.
Yeah, to come back and answer like that, and Leslie's the guy. He's the one who's going to have to give him that confidence.
Leslie with a pickpocket, took it right away from Hopkins, and he's fouled. Players quickly to come over, just a hard foul, not a flagrant foul.
Well, when you're the third guy in like Hopkins at that position, you can come in and be a little bit more physical. And I like that play. You're not going to give up. That's a terrific defensive play on the other end for Hopkins. He never sulked. He got back in and really physical out there. Welcome to the third round of the NCAA tournament.
I would take my time in getting up, too. know if you watched last night's Louisville win against New Mexico, Mike, but Drew Gordon went down, and I was just amazed that he came back and played the second half for Steve Alford after really having what happened to his knee occur. He did manage to get back on the floor. They wrapped him up, and he was able to play and was really a factor in keeping them in that game late. None of these guys want to play their last game this season, do they?
Well, and that's the thing. That's the finality of your senior year. And, you know, there are a lot of players these days that don't get to experience that feeling, but there is a real sense of urgency. And you don't want it in the front of your mind, but it's certainly in the back of your mind that any game could be your last.
Free throw line has been damaging to North Carolina State. Brown missed 2 in a row, and now Leslie misses 1. Scott Wood comes back in. Alex Johnson sits down.
Yeah, you can't. When you're 5 of 20 from the field, you've got to pick it up someplace. But they're 6 of 11 from the free throw line right now. That's putting a lot of pressure on their defense. And we've touched on the fact too that this Georgetown offense is much better when they're ahead in the game. Get up to double figures because it forces you to chase out on the perimeter and it opens things up.
Williams will put back. 9-1 now. Second chance points for North Carolina State.
And the scowl on JT3, just a cardinal sin that time. An easy putback on a missed free throw.
Howick again. Air ball. Howell comes down with it. Wood leaving it for Brown. He'll take the 3. Count it!
Well, all of a sudden, the body language is changing a little bit for NC State. Waving to the crowd to get people up. Lorenzo Brown giving them a lift, and C.J. Williams on consecutive possessions.
Fans from the triangle rise to attention. Run with the pack. They've been bad company. Paul Rogers sang the song years ago. This North Carolina State team is running with the pack, trying to get to the pack of 16.
Coverage of the NCAA men's basketball tournament is sponsored by Sonic, Chevrolet, and by Fidelity Investments.
A beautiful Sunday in Columbus, Ohio. Georgetown's lead down to 3. The third member of our broadcast team, one-time Kansas Jayhawk, Otis Livingston. Otis?
Hey, Tim, let's take you back to last Sunday. North Carolina State, the final at-large team to be announced in the field of 68. And this was their reaction. Unbridled, unchoreographed, unrehearsed excitement. And that's what it's supposed to be about. Well, they drew some criticism because of their excitement. Some people said that they just celebrated too much, and they feared that they may have a just happy to be here attitude. Well, yesterday in talking to the players, they said that they took exception to those comments, and they're going to use it as motivation. And what better way to quiet the critics than to make a long run?
Well, as one who contributes to too many talk shows being on radio and television, I'll say this. Sometimes there's too much air to fill, Mike. They had every right to be that excited.
No question about it. And you love the enthusiasm of it. And we will say that they weren't the last team chosen. They were just the last team shown on that show. And that's what led to the high anxiety.
Sure. When Greg Gumbel's his last words are "you" on that 11 line, it's going to get your attention. C.J. Williams making that last hoop to cut it to 1. We've got 3:35 remaining. What's wrong with being happy, folks? Huh? Jamie Lee Curtis is back on TV's #1 drama. Don't miss a new NCIS Tuesday, only CBS. Well, a look at our tournament summary. It was chalk on Thursday and more of it on Saturday. The Big East teams, now 3 of them in the Sweet 16, and only one of last year's Final Four teams remained. That's Kentucky.
And there's been anything but chalk on Friday, and we'll see what Sunday has in store for us. But I really think, Tim, you look at this game, and there was an opportunity missed for Georgetown to widen this thing out. It's a 1-point game right now, and you've got Henry Sims on the bench, and that's maybe a big reason why he facilitates their offense. And all 3 of their bigs have 2 personal fouls.
I think we had a lane violation there. We did.
That's going to negate the free throw up front on the front end of a 1-and-1.
By the way, that has been a strong point of emphasis, that call in this year's tournament, has it not?
No question about it, but that is especially hurtful on a front end of a 1-on-1. And the first time we've seen Georgetown extend their defense up the floor in this game.
The Wolfpack have never led. They have their chance here. And look at Painter wide open. Floor was not balanced, but look how quickly they recover. Porter over there to make it happen.
Wow, that was amazing. An opportunity missed right there for Deshaun Painter. They did a nice job throwing over the top, but nothing to show for it.
Starks leaves it for Lubick. Now he'll take the trade. Whittington on the offensive glass. A rare second chance opportunity, but nothing doing for Georgetown. Williams on the wing. Hello. He can light it up like so many of these guys with North Carolina State. This is now a 12-0 run. NC State leads by 2.
Yeah, and they're starting to match now, and you can just see their confidence grow in the last 10 minutes of this half.
Painter the rebound.
And this is where NC State's at their best, trying to get out in the open floor.
And again, all of this happening, Mike, with Richard Howell on the bench for North Carolina State. Painter getting the job done, and quality minutes coming from C.J. Williams. Here's Wesley on a blow-by against Porter, and again, got a little leather on that one. Another deflection.
Wow, and that's a nice job by Lubick stepping in and cutting off the drive to the lane. Wesley's got to be careful in picking up another offensive foul.
There's Wood into the passing lane. He almost came up with the pick and then the walk. Very disruptive, Scott Wood. No longer just a stationary catch-and-shoot guy. Scott Wood has really become a much better defender.
Right from the start, though, his freshman year, he was an undervalued defensive player, and I think that his scoring kind of and his ability to shoot overscored that. But already 8 turnovers in this game, and NC State's been pretty disruptive with this offense.
5 of those 8 turnovers in the last 3 minutes and 15 seconds during this run for North Carolina State. There's the pop out by Williams. He's feeling it. Maybe a bit too soon that time. He's claiming that that ball was deflected by Whittington, but I don't think he's going to get any help.
Well, I really think, for Georgetown, they need to establish their wings inside again. And Otto Porter's only taken 3 shots in this game. Now, he's a guy that won't punt his offense, but they've got a size advantage at the wings with him and Thompson.
They're just not the same without Henry Sims in there. They really miss him in their half-court sets. Well, you see the points in the paint story.
Yeah, you see the difference right there. And, obviously NC State has packed it in a little bit, no pun intended. But trying to keep it out of the lane. And Georgetown, I thought, had settled for some 3-point shots early in this game.
As good as this run has been for North Carolina State, they've got to be thinking we need to add to it with Sims out with the 2 fouls. Because the game changes dramatically when he's on the floor. Georgetown so much more effective offensively.
A little bit late in the half for that, but I think just the fact that they've clawed their way back into this game.
Yeah, they were down 10. We got an offensive foul. We do, induced by Clark. What a veteran move against Lorenzo Brown there. That's just a very smart defensive play by a senior. Second foul on Brown.
Just jumping over, he understood where Lorenzo Brown, that's a scouting report foul right there, knowing where he's going to try to get to.
Clark stays in the game along with Porter, Whittington, Lubick, and Hollis Thompson. Off the ball screen, he gets the 2.
Well, they run a lot of dribble handoffs up top. They almost a little weave action that time, and I thought Painter did a decent job of showing out, but that was just a tough jump shot.
And the timeout taken by Mark Gottfried with 20.9 remaining in the half. We're tied at 27. We see this a lot in college basketball. The ball screen, just hand it off, one bounce, and play the nylon tune. Hoyas tie it up. section for the Hoyas up and going. We're tied at 27. Tim Brando, Mike Jaminski, Otis Livingston. One thing about both of these coaches coming in, they really like their teams a great deal. Gottfried, we've already touched on the relationship factor for him. John Thompson III, very similar, Mike. He is has nothing but positive things to say about the way these guys have been playing for him.
Well, it's a very young group. They had a kind of a galvanizing trip over to China over the summertime, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But he said right from the start, all these guys cared about was each other and how to improve each other's game.
Shot clock differential about 13 seconds. Wood trying to run Whittington for all kinds of screens. Now off the bounce, takes it all the way with a teardrop, and he does manage to get to the line, doesn't he? Hollis Thompson picks up the foul.
Well, one of the best free throw shooters in the country at just under 92%. But I think to the degree you can, you want to jam him and make him a driver. And this is what Georgetown wants him to do. You don't want him to get open looks on threes, so he's going to have people in his shirt. And we don't see that a lot from him, where he'll manufacture something off the drive and get to the line.
Typical Indiana stroke in so many respects, and a consummate worker on the defensive end of the floor. That is rare for him to miss. Yeah, very shocking miss there.
He could probably go back through the whole year and remember each one. That's how good he's been.
I think one of the more shocking ones that he had came with the two that he missed when North Carolina State was dropping a 20-point lead at Cameron Indoor Stadium. A lot of people didn't figure that they could recover from those 3 losses in that week. They lost a 20-point lead at Cameron, followed it up by being buried at home by Florida State on a quick turnaround game, and then North Carolina beat them.
I was with them each one of those games, covering them, and you know, even through it all, and Mark Gottfried said as much yesterday. He says, you know what, we're playing okay. You know, we didn't get the win, and that's a pretty tough stretch. 3 nationally ranked teams, 2 of which are playing in 36 hours.
Leslie with a steal to close the half. CJ with a big payday. What a momentum builder for North Carolina State. They finish on a 15-2 run to take a 3-point lead over Georgetown.
You know, Tim, this isn't a lot of times that you can't play the gaps against this team, but with time running down, it was a very opportunistic play by C.J. Leslie.
A little frustration, I think, after really being stymied for much of the half.
Well, his second steal, and this is what you need to do against Georgetown. Get out and finish in the open floor.
You see the reaction from North Carolina State, and why not? They were down much of the way in the first 20 minutes. And Otis Livingston is standing by with Mark Gottfried.
Coach, a nice finish there to the half. How are you guys able to get back into it and get the lead after being down by 8?
Well, it's tempo. I think early in the game, it wasn't our tempo. You know, they slowed the game down. We weren't generating anything in the break. We had a hard time scoring. I thought then we started to loosen up a little bit, get running a little bit more. I think that's helped us just feel a little bit better about how we're playing offensively.
How concerned are you about Richard Howell having foul trouble going forward to the second half?
I don't think so. You know, we've been there so many times this year. We'll play through it. Our guys will substitute through it. He'll be fine.
All right, thanks a lot. Best of luck in the second half.
You got it. It's a 30-27 NC State lead. We will send you to AT&T at the half after these messages. Back on October the 15th, 340 teams began the journey. We begin today with only 24. We'll get down to 16. You're watching the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship.
AT&T at the half is sponsored by AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. Rethink possible.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to AT&T at the half. I'm Greg Gumbel. 20 minutes of play gone by in Columbus. North Carolina State leads Georgetown by a score of 30-27. And joining me here at the desk, Greg Anthony, Kenny Smith, Charles Barkley, our special guest for this weekend, St. John's head coach Steve Lavin. As we look at these first half highlights, I know coaches and players are all about adjustments. At one point, Georgetown led this game 25-15, and then NC State finished on a 15-2 run. What changed?
Well, a couple things. I thought, and you heard Coach Gottfried talk about the halftime interview, they were able to extend and start to get some turnovers and contest shots and get out in the open floor. North Carolina State's not going to win this game if it's a 5-on-5 half-court battle. And I thought also their ability, Coach, to dominate the offensive glass early kind of kept them in it because they really struggled to make shots.
I agree with you. 2 things jumped out to me. One is the aggressiveness or the swagger of NC NC State, the belief they're going to beat Georgetown. I think the quickness, the aggressiveness, they turned Georgetown over 9 times. That's way above what John Thompson III wants. And then the offensive rebounds, 10 offensive rebounds by North Carolina State. As you know, those statistics are all about aggressiveness and just wanting it. I think John Thompson III challenges his Hoya team.
Well, if this was a Princeton offense that Georgetown's running, I've never seen that part of Princeton, because they do take quick shots. They take the first available shot. They get into that set. But like I said early in the telecast, I just felt that there's a versatility along the North Carolina State front line that is different than they're probably accustomed to seeing at Georgetown, where C.J. Leslie and Howell and C.J. Williams, these guys are very versatile out front. And I still like the way Lorenzo Brown brings a calming effect to North Carolina State. Even when they were down 8, he kept putting his hand up, telling guys, don't worry, bring it back. Good point guard structure by North Carolina State. This is why I still think that they're going to have an opportunity to win this game and win it.
Well, if I'm Coach Thompson, I'm very frustrated, because I thought that they had the game under control when they had the 10-point lead. Then they just started shooting too many jumpers. You know, Mike Jaminski touched on it a little bit. They became too perimeter-oriented. They got an advantage inside, but they just thought they were making a couple threes early, and they fell in love with the jump shot. And
what happens when you fall in love with the jump shot?
First of all, you die by jumpers. But the thing you do more than anything, those jumpers were great when they were going in. But what happens was, when you miss jumpers, they're like fast break starters, and that's when the tempo of the game started. So Georgetown just fell in love with the jump shot.
They still have 20 minutes to decide it, but right now at halftime, it's NC State by 3 over Georgetown, 30-27.
The road to the Final Four continues here in Columbus. Georgetown, NC State want to march in March. This second half coming up on CBS.
Coverage of the NCAA men's basketball tournament is sponsored by Dish, Miller 64, Scott Trade, and by USAA.
In the last 10 minutes of the first half, a surge by North Carolina State got them this 3-point lead here at the break. Tim Brando along with Mike Jaminski. And G-Man, it really was the tale of 2 halves for both in one.
Well, I don't know that NC State believed Mark Gottfried's speech at the first 10 minutes, but I think at the end of the first half, they felt like they belonged out on the floor. And for Georgetown, too many jump shots in that game, and also too many turnovers as well. You see only 6 points in the paint for the Hoyas. They've got to reestablish themselves on the low block.
Well, some of that can be aided by Henry Sims coming back into the game. He was reduced to a spectator. The numbers on him just not very good.
No, only 6 minutes, no points, and you see what he did against Belmont as well.
And earlier, Otis Livingston talked to JT3 about Henry Sims.
One of your main facilitators, Henry Sims, on the bench in the first half, 0.0 assists. How do you get him more involved in the second half?
We just put him in the game. You know, foul trouble. I was worried about him running out of gas, him picking up fouls later on in the game, so we just got to put him in.
They were able to finish with a flurry. Coach, how important is it for you to re-seize momentum early in the second half?
I mean, they went on a flurry because we allowed them to get offensive rebounds. They got 10 offensive rebounds, and then that got their momentum going. And then we tried too many times to answer by taking a quick, long shot instead of making them work a little bit and getting a better shot. So we have to get some defensive rebounds, and we have to stay with our stuff until we get the looks that we want offensively.
All right, thanks a lot, Coach. Best of luck in the second half.
Well, that's again, you know, then this man right here has got to stay on the floor and really facilitate that offense. And again, I thought a lot of early, long threes, especially in the first 10 minutes.
You noticed it. Your old teammate with the Sixers, Charles Barkley, did as well at halftime. We'll see if it's a factor early on. Right away, Howell dishing to C.J. Williams. And North Carolina State begins the second half with their largest lead of the day. Nice cut by Thompson from Sims.
Again, that's just the cut right there, and a beautiful pass by Sims. And I think, you want to try to establish that if you're Georgetown, and then if you get open looks as a result of that from three, fine.
North Carolina State's early nerves, I thought, were in evidence really by Howell's play. They were 3 of 15 to open the game, Mike, and then in the last 12 minutes, they were 7 of 14 after that. They really got lathered up in the second 10 minutes. Keep an eye on which one of these players gets his third foul the earliest. Howell or Sims. On the overplay. Tie ball. Very aggressive move by Howell. The possession arrow is to Georgetown.
I think the guy really that can explode inside is Porter for Georgetown. And you see it nice. And then one of the things they wanted to do was really not let him catch it deep in the post, fight him for position, make him post up from way outside the lane, which he did that time.
How about Howell's effort there? And again, early on, you'd think, if anything, because of his past foul difficulty, that he would be a bit tentative. But no, he's right in the middle of the fray. Thompson with 1 on the clock. Brown brings it down.
Not good awareness that time on the inbounds play.
Lorenzo Brown with a beautiful dunk down. Williams was surprised by it, though, and it's on the deck. Tie ball. North Carolina State with the possession this time. This was a bit of a surprise pass, it appeared.
Well, look, but still, I mean, if you're in the lane area like that and you've got a driver coming in the lane, you've got to be prepared and have your hands up to him. You've got to be ready to catch.
John Thompson III, seen his team go out of the NCAAs the last couple of years very early. But when they usually get past the first round, they can be lethal. Very difficult team to match up against.
Well, we talked about today and nerves, Tim, and, the thing is you won the first game. You get to celebrate a little bit, but now the magnitude of this game to get to the Sweet 16 starts to weigh in on you. So every game has a different pressure to it.
That's the Lorenzo Brown that's captivated the imagination of Kenny the Jet Smith. He said at halftime that he was the second best point guard in the ACC. Would you concur?
Well, job number one for Mark Godfrey when he got the ball, when he got the job, was to say, this is your team, here's the basketball. and I think that was a mistake that Sidney Lowe readily admits he didn't make last year.
Brown feeds it to Williams, going right to the rack. That one was deflected by Sims, and Porter gets the outlet to Jason Clark.
That was a rush that time, not a good decision by C.J. Williams.
Clark looking to pass out of the post. Jason gets it back. That one was deflected by Leslie, out of bounds. Buck Sermon gets some help from Mike Eads. It's out of bounds to NC State.
All right, so again, just going to the baseline, you can't give that up. And he's got a size advantage over Jason Clark, about 3 inches. So to the extent that he can get in and shoot floaters, he can be very effective inside.
Clark is only 1 of 6 from the floor. He's going to need to warm up along with Sims in the second half for Georgetown. Leslie backs in on Lubick. Again, really well defended by Lubick.
Good post defender. Doesn't maybe have the quickness that some of the other wings do inside, but certainly has the strength to guard Leslie on the block.
Like all post players for Georgetown, a good passer. Clark off the curl. Howell trying to collect it. Lubick with the garbage, and then I think that, oh, by the way, foul on Howell. That's one of those marginal fouls that Howell can pick up from time to time, and that's his third, and you see what it means to Mark Godfrey.
Yeah, Deshaun Painter coming into the game right off the bench. And I think, Tim, that's one of those calls that if it goes in, I don't know if it's made.
Yep.
If he makes this basket, I think it's a play on.
And Lubick at the free throw line.
Well, this is where Deshaun Painter was really good against San Diego State in the second half, and they're going to need him to play at a high level here. 16:41 to go.
You think Mark has seen this play out before? Just the look on his face says it all. North Carolina State with 3.5 gone.
The gap in their rotation is at 6'6", 6'7". I'm talking about NC State. They really don't have a sub off the bench in that category, but they can absorb a little foul trouble with Howell because of Painter.
Wood, that's his spot. Count it.
Well, if you're Georgetown, you cannot fall asleep on Scott Wood. He's the one guy on the perimeter that you have got to mark.
Wood now up to 7 points. Sims working in on Painter. Goes reversal. Leslie. Brown had it nearly knocked away by Sims. They had an open break. That was a game saver there by Sims.
Yeah, that was a layup for Scott Wood. Really quick hands. And for Sims with that foul trouble, it was a bit of a risky play.
Leslie looking to explode. Now Porter with a steal. Clark on the other end past Brown. He misses the bunny. Porter with the putback.
A very unselfish play by Otto Porter to give it up, but when he did, he became an offensive rebounder on the break.
North Carolina State, as Mark Gottfried mentioned, Otis Livingston at halftime, did get the tempo the way they wanted it late in the first half. See if they can keep that up here in the second. Very difficult against Georgetown to do that. Williams. That's a three for C.J. Williams.
Well, they've really been collapsing Georgetown's defense, and they've got a couple open looks from three.
The lead is up to 8. What a contribution C.J. Williams has made off the bench. 14 points for him now. Thompson not there. Painter with the rebound. End to end goes Leslie. That's going to be a block. Simmons picking it up. C.J. Leslie being heard from on both ends. First comes the rejection. A little help defense. No need for help on this end. C.J. Williams, one C.J. to another. Survivor's newest supervillain continues to shake up the game. Wednesday, only CBS. Draymond Green will be on display in our next game against St. Louis, the #1 seed. Look at the numbers on him. What an incredible career. The consummate college player.
Most complete player in the game today. Really remarkable what he does at his size. And take it in the action. That is going to be that's going to be a grind the next game. I think it's the best way to talk about St. Louis. But this guy right here understands his situation. We talked about it yesterday, his senior year.
Yep.
And joining Irvin Magic Johnson with triple doubles in NCAA tournament play.
Well, you may have heard what Tom Izzo said in the feature that we had at halftime about mentioning Magic Johnson, that you don't do that. But I will tell you, he did mention Magic Johnson to me, as you see Leslie putting it in. As a guest on my radio show, he said, I really felt the need to have Magic call him because he's the only sounding board that I believe Draymond could use.
Well, who plays like and knows what it's like to do those things. And so that's a disturbing thing for John Thompson. It's the second offensive rebound on a missed free throw that's been converted.
And an answer from Hollis Thompson. We mentioned Jason Clark. He's only 1 of 8 from the floor. Thompson has 10, but on this end, C.J. Williams, who I may have misspoke a bit earlier, he's a complimentary player, but does start. His 14 have been huge for North Carolina State. Painter.
We talked about the short corner jump shot, and that's where it is, and that's his comfort zone right there, not posting up inside the free throw line there. Mark Gottfried got him to that place, and he is not afraid to take that shot.
Porter pumps. Oh, the iron unkind to Georgetown. Painter with the rebound. Sims, of course, picked up that third foul going to break a moment ago. Sort of an equalizer for the loss of Richard Howell. But right away, you see John Thompson now getting him back to the scores table. He's going to roll the dice now and get him back in. Wood in traffic. I believe he may have stepped out of bounds. It's out of bounds to Georgetown, and here comes Sims back into the game.
You see right there, and no assists, the big key right there. We talked about him as being a facilitator, and probably has only played 8 or 9 minutes so far in this game, but as a senior, you have to be able to go out there, understand what your foul situation is, and play accordingly on the defensive end. And they got a guy, too, and I touched on it, with Painter, he's more of a jump shooter. He's not a guy that can go at you in the low post, so if he can attack a little bit, that would certainly bother Sims.
With this lead now up to 11, Mark Gottfried goes to his bench, gets Alex Johnson into the game, replacing Wood. Here's Sims with Painter on his hip. There's the pass that you always expect from him. Thompson on the cut, and he'll get fouled by North Carolina State.
Well, a lot of big guys aren't good passers out of the post, and if you're Painter, you've got to have that outside hand up. Try to deter that to the extent that you can, and that was falling asleep. There were a lot of red jerseys in the paint area, and Hollis Thompson just cut right down the middle of all of them.
Mike, in the last 12 minutes, the score. Last 12 minutes of game action, meaning the latter stages of the first half and first 7 minutes of the second. North Carolina State has outscored Georgetown 30-11 after those 2 free throws. And it all really began when Sims sat down with the second foul.
And again, we talked about it, that this Georgetown offense a little bit better when they're ahead. Conversely, when they're behind, you saw a little bit of urgency and maybe not the best shot selection.
Johnson's in some trouble, and he gets the timeout. Nice presence of mind by the grad student from Toronto, Ontario. We'll be back. We welcome you back. Look at the underdogs who've taken over. We waited 10 years, 11 years for it to happen, and then 2 15s knock off 2 2s in one day within 3 hours of one another. How are your brackets looking? Mine are a little similar to this fellow's, actually.
We talk about the X factor in games. That's the X factor in practice. X out, X out.
See, I do still have Baylor alive, and I think he does too. But Duke, my friend, is gone. Imagine if Duke and North Carolina were to be knocked out, okay? If that happened and NC State was your only team standing in the Triangle region, what kind of reaction that would get?
And then you just roll over the pool to next year. Nobody wins.
Oh, boy. Well, they get Creighton later today. That's an outstanding matchup, I think, don't you?
Yeah, and also they're still not sure about the health of John Henson's wrist and if he plays or not. Zone defense for Georgetown right now.
Matchup of teammates in high school, Doug McDermott and Harrison Barnes. There's a runner by Brown, not there. Pulled down by Porter. Sims brings a relative calm to this half-court set, and that's the comfort zone that enables guys like Hollis Thompson to go off. Now, he has 15 in the game, and the lead is down to 6.
He's been the one guy offensively that has shown up for the Hoyas.
Williams. Painter gets the long rebound. Bad pass that time by Painter. Picked off by Porter.
Just trying to do too much with that first pass. Better to recycle, go out and get a better possession.
Sims again with a feed.
I love when he's up at the high post. I know they love to get him deep in the low box, but he makes some great plays up there.
Thompson has the Hoyas last 9, and you see why JT Green could not afford to wait. Gets Sims into the game. And a technical foul has been called. We have a T. We'll tell you about it when we come back. We welcome you back. 45-41 our score. We are getting an explanation now about the technical fouls called at the end of that sequence. When Georgetown got the bucket, Mike Eads, I know, has come over and spoken to you.
Yeah, it was a double technical foul on Markel Starks and Lorenzo Brown for woofing at each other.
Orlando Early talking with Ted Valentine there, perhaps looking for an explanation here. There's number 1 on the way back. There you see Valentine with the tee.
So there's Lorenzo Brown, and it's right there in that interchange right there.
Second personal foul, 13th foul.
So what that means in terms of personal fouls after the double technicals, Lorenzo Brown went now with 3 personal fouls and Whittington with 2. So on that trade-off, actually, bad news for Gottfried because that gives him a very critical player with an additional foul. And Lorenzo Brown out there. Now they're saying they're changing who the foul was against, so we'll get an explanation as soon as possible as to whom was guilty of the technical on NC State's end. 11 and change remaining. Brown not there. How about that play?
Well, offensive rebounding has really been hurting Georgetown so far, and Leslie anticipating where the shot was going to miss.
Sims, not there. Leslie the rebound. Now, we have had it confirmed that it is Lorenzo Brown that got the foul, and it is his 3rd for North Carolina State.
I get the sense then that really, when they talk about tempo in this game, that this second half, the tempo has been much more to NC State's liking.
Yeah, and it really began back when Sims got the 2nd foul in the first half. They were able to get some turnovers and actually push the ball, as you mentioned, Mike, off made baskets for Georgetown. Howell hesitant with Sims in front of him. Brown dumps it off to Johnson. That ball was deflected. Shot clock winding down, and it is a violation. Georgetown gets it back. 10-17 remaining. They're getting ever closer to the Sweet 16. Will it be the Big East entry, the mighty Hoyas? Or will we run with the pack to St. Louis? Stay tuned, you're gonna find out. Second round coverage of the 2012 NCAA Division I Women's Basketball Championship begins tomorrow at 7 Eastern on ESPN2. For more information on game times and listings, go to ncaa.com. Tim Brando, Mike Jaminski, Otis Livingston here in Columbus, Ohio. Sims and Howell both in the game with 3 fouls. Lorenzo Brown having picked up his 3rd also on that double technical a moment ago with Markel Starks. And Starks is bringing it up. Whittington remains in the game and is on the wing now with the ball against Wood.
Brown and Howell ran away from him, giving him an open look inside. 37% from 3, so he's capable.
Scott Wood for 3.
Big time answer.
Big time scorer from Indiana.
And then Mark Gottfried said all year long, it's not just that he shoots threes, but he makes big threes in the course of games.
Thompson, not there. Sims lost it out of bounds. Oh, Howell, they're going to say. Ted Valentine says he got it with his shoelaces there, out of bounds to Georgetown. Ted was right on top of it.
Couldn't really tell from that replay, but you really have to be careful. Like Richard Howell gave Ted Valentine a look, and after a referee has teed up a couple of people, you really need to let that simmer down some.
As they say, let it go. Life will be better another day, another play.
Serenity now.
You say that after a season with me every year, don't you?
Like tomorrow?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Leslie, that quickness of his. Howell going to the offensive boards again. Rushed that shot a bit. Here comes Markel Starks. The spacing the Hoyas have in their offense, especially when Sims is out there, is amazing. And their confidence level goes up incredibly. And Thompson with another 3-ball. It's now a 50-47 game.
Yeah, he's the guy. I mean, he's 20 points, almost half of their offense, and shooting very, very well. And that's what, no matter how long NC State will stay with that zone.
Brown drives against Starks. Howell on the glass again. And he's fouled. Well, he is just a beast on the offensive boards, Richard Howell.
Well, it's going to be Sims's fourth. He knows a big play. It's a couple of straight offensive rebounds that Howell has gotten.
His quickness is the advantage, and it's gotten Sims his fourth foul as a result. Timeout. As you look at our score, Georgetown has made a run. It's 50-47, and the issue that they have, G-Man, is that Sims, even with 0 points and 4 fouls, when he's out there, the offense runs so much more smoothly for John Thompson III.
No question. And because of that, I mean, I think Hollis Thompson has really stepped up his game to get them back in. And they've got a nice contribution from the bench as well, and they've had to with the foul trouble.
What do you anticipate Mark Gottfried will do to counteract the loss of Sims you would expect with 4 fouls? Granted, he's going to play a good bit, but one would think he's got to sit for a period of time.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about it before that Nate Lubick is a very good passer. So if you're Richard Howell, you still have to be aware of the fact that you've got 3 personal fouls, and now they've gone with a big lineup with him and Painter on the floor at the same time.
So it's Starks, Whittington, Lubick, Porter, Hollis Thompson, and Markel Starks for Georgetown. You see C.J. Leslie, who's been resting and getting some fluids over there on the NC State side.
Well, I wonder who they're going to match up with Painter and Howell along that front line. With Howell, and they're going to have Howell on Porter. So if I'm Otto Porter, maybe try to put some pressure on Howell, especially out on the perimeter.
Done.
We talked about the ability in this offense because of their length to pass over the top. Most Princeton offenses will use the bounce pass, but these guys can play over the top of you with their length.
Howell has been better on the offensive glass than he has been initiating his own offense in today's game. Brown gives it back to him, though, in traffic. Loose ball taken away by Porter. NC State gets back. Nice cut by Lubick. The pass was a little bit high. Thompson then lost sight of where he was and stepped out of bounds. An unforced error by the width of this offense.
You can see right here, and the help is going to come up, and that's going to allow Lubick to get an easy layup. He's got to step up to stop the dribble drive. Good two-man game.
Brown with Williams, Wood, Painter, and Howell. The 5 on the deck for NC State. Howell posting up in traffic again. That's the tie ball with the arrow to Georgetown. Well, we've seen a number of those today.
With that cover, if you're Richard Howell, you want to get into the post and operate, but you've got to be careful about offensive fouls in that situation.
Sims back on the floor now with 6:27 remaining for the Hoyas. They've managed to stay in contact with him on the bench for quite some time. Looks like we are going down to the wire here in Columbus. Godfrey tries to draw one up. We'll be right back. Mike Javinsky knows a thing or two about post players and their value, and these two both mean a great deal to their collective teams. What do you make of the way their games have played out?
Well, I think, Richard Howell, a nice contribution with 8 and 8 there. Has got to stay out of the foul trouble. But for Sims, the no points isn't a huge deal. It's what he's not been able to do within the framework of their offense. Is a guy who passes the ball a lot and handles it.
North Carolina State has gone 3-18 without a field goal, and this is now a 15-7 Georgetown spurt. C.J. Leslie clearly needed to get his wits about him and maybe his legs, getting those liquids. I even saw a banana over there with him for a brief time. He's going to come in on the next dead ball. Sims feed starts for three. Long rebound to Scott Wood. You see the cold shooting in the last 340 plus for North Carolina State.
All of a sudden now, we talked about tempo just a few minutes ago, Tim. Now the game is ground down a little bit for NC State.
There's the feed into the post. Howell with one more pass. Williams missed an easy one. Out of bounds to NC State. Boy, you couldn't have had an easier look at it, and CJ knows it.
This is great interior passing. Again, there were a little reluctance to go all the way with it, not pick up the foul. You have to convert those types of plays in the last 5 minutes of a game.
Sims leaves the game. They've got the defensive for offensive substitutions taking place.
Or they may try to get him under the 4-minute mark for that next TV timeout as well.
Yeah, good point. Williams, that's his spot on the floor, but not this time. Howell unable to corral the offensive rebound. State has missed their last 6 shots. This guy's been taking them all day. Howell on the boards, but he lost it out of bounds. It'll be Georgetown ball. Well, we may get a reversal. Mike Eads is going to get some help from Doug Shermans if it's going to NC State.
Well, that was the correct call. Good officiating that time.
NC State substitution number 3, Alex Johnson, replacing 21, C.J. Williams.
Lubick did get it, didn't he? Yep.
Yeah, on that last little push, and Howell didn't really have it, but that's what forced the ball out of bounds.
When you're struggling to score in North Carolina State, Mark Godfrey generally likes to see this guy take a shot. Or perhaps Leslie inside. There's that quickness advantage, and he'll get to the line. Those moments in time in the post area, Mike, when you can use your foot speed, it's really advantageous for Leslie.
And that was on Lubick too. It was a good block by Thompson coming in from the weak side, but he is so quick, and this is the advantage he has over most power forwards, and especially with Lubick. And man, you say you got to know where help is coming from. You don't want to give up that baseline. Impossible to help there.
A young man that Mark Godfrey refers to as Calvin. C.J. Leslie, his father's name is Calvin, and I think Justin trying to build a relationship with C.J. and knowing that there was another C.J. on the team, and Williams, he said, I want you to just be Calvin for me. Be real, and in this tournament, he's been keeping it that way. 54-49. Clark giving it up on the wing. Porter not there. Air ball. Whittington on the follow is foul. Appeared that Wood got him on the arm.
Yep, that was the push in, and Whittington again, that length advantage. How many times you see an air ball like that usually benefits the offense? And it went right to him, but with Scott Wood, you've got to check him out about a couple of feet farther out from the basket than normally. So long, you can just play over the top, and you see foul issues for both teams. Sims the only one with 4.
Back in the Hoyas, 34-8.
Lubick comes back in for Sims. We're going to be seeing this happen probably the rest of the way. John Thompson III trying to milk every moment he possibly can from an offensive standpoint out of Sims, because he means so much more than just the box score on that end of the floor. 54-50. A bench point story with Georgetown. NC State's gotten the numbers from the complimentary players. C.J. Williams, he's been the big offensive factor. There's Wood, right on cue. Right when you need one, give it to 15.
Right, he was a little late getting out there. Whittington got a hand up.
Big shot after big shot, the youngster from Marion, Indiana. Whittington.
See, that's a force. That's a guy who wants to get the three right back. That was not a good shot in the offense.
During the warm-ups today, he was just making everything with Scott Wood. I asked him, how's your stroke? He says, well, it feels good now, but I don't see any Hoyas in front of me.
Yeah, there are a lot of guys who are good in warm-ups.
Wood drives this time. A little leaner. Not this time. Loose ball, though, on the deck. Whittington gets it out to Lubick. Clark gets it back. Count the basket. Leslie got it pinned against the backboard. A goaltending goal. Georgetown. Scott from Marion, Indiana. He's good with his ground strokes. And a 3-wood to boot. It is golf season. When you see the finish line, and we're under 4 minutes left, Mike Jaminski, you think about resolve. And both of these teams have had to answer that question all year. Back in August, Georgetown was in China for some exhibition games, and an ugly incident took place, a bench-clearing brawl when they played against the Bayou Rockets.
Well, you see kind of right in the middle of it, Henry Sims, and he talked to us yesterday, Tim, about the fact that one of the things we found out is who's with us, and the answer was everybody's with us, and that's where this team came together, and they also played early in the season in Hawaii, so there was a lot of travel time away where they could bond, and clearly as a group they have under that man.
North Carolina State had to face themselves, look in the mirror after that those 3 losses they had in February, beginning with the 20-point loss at Cameron Indoor Stadium. And even after the ACC tournament loss to North Carolina, there's a foul off the ball. Even after that loss, they were very satisfied with their level of resolve. And Greg Whittington picks up the personal. That's his second.
And those things happen, fouls like that happen, Tim, and it was on Scott Wood, and because he's moving so well without the basketball, when you see a grab like that in the play, that means the player's getting a little frustrated.
Wood with 9 points. 3 for 3 for Trays, and Thompson has 20. Lead North Carolina State. There's Lorenzo Brown. Powell again on the offensive glass, but lost the dribble. Sims' ability to make passes out of the post is outstanding, as once again you see Thompson taking it in. Out of bounds, last touch by Sims.
A couple of plays with no result, and Thompson made the right decision there. He's got Howell guarding him. And here's the look, and he's walking on eggshells a little bit with that 4th personal foul.
Yeah, it was very evident there, wasn't it? Hoyas with just 1 field goal in the last 4:45. And the dilemma has been the mixing and matching of Sims in and out of the lineup. The foul difficulty has been problematic for John Thompson III. Brown's pass was tipped out of bounds by Georgetown.
That was a risky pass that time, and they got a hot guy in Wood, but they did a nice job getting out, covering Jason Clark that time. A good hand.
Alex Johnson also on the floor, so an additional ball handler for NC State. Leslie, Wood, and Howell, the front line. Shot clock under 10. Brown, tough shot. Oh, but a made shot. Low, going high for a big deuce.
That was a terrific play. We talked about his ability to create off the dribble at 6'5", but he had a taller defender on him, but that mid-range floater has been a terrific weapon for him.
7 points, 5 boards, and 7 assists for him, and a timeout by John Thompson III. Lorenzo Brown, I'm going to tell you, Ryan Harrell was on this team and left after the coaching change was made. Mark Gottfried said, X marks the spot. You're my point guard. You can deliver the goods. He just did. NC State looking to get to the Sweet 16.
Talked about it, Timmy, that NC State is up 7, but Lorenzo Brown just not using the screen that time, going baseline, absorbed some contact that time from Hollis Thompson as well. Thompson at 6'8" and long, and it forces you to shoot a shot with that trajectory, but what a terrific finish for Lorenzo Brown. That's the difference in this game. NC State has found those second and third scorers. Georgetown has not yet.
And the offensive boards, second chance points, either baskets made by Howell or a live ball situation by Howell.
17 offensive rebounds, 15 second chance points.
Porter inside the three-point arc. That's a deuce.
He's been awfully quiet in this game, Tim, and maybe his time. Either him or Clark right now stepping up.
Winner advances to St. Louis, a member of the Sweet 16 next week. Gottfried instructing Lorenzo Brown to get into that clock, and now Thompson's going to pick up the foul. The issue has been that North Carolina State has not been as effective at the free throw line. That may not be a bad foul by Thompson. If after time they get to the line, now that's the 16th foul, so one more and NC State will shoot.
But the backcourt, Tim, you got Lorenzo Brown at 74%, the same for Alex Johnson, and of course Wood, who's missed one today, but at 92, so their perimeter is pretty good. Leslie's the one you want to try to test, or Howell at 63%, Leslie at 60.
There you see the team fouls. One more for Georgetown, and North Carolina State will shoot 1 and 1. And they're going to start using them now. Starks picks up the foul against Lorenzo Brown. 73% on the season, but a couple of misses earlier in the first half when NC State was struggling.
You like to say that you throw out the statistics. It's a chance to go to the Sweet 16. There's a minute and 11 left. You can throw those numbers out.
They just found it out. It is 1 and 1 now.
Keep in mind, too, NC State, a couple of offensive rebounds on missed free throws in this game for baskets.
To think where this team was, Mike, even in early February, where North Carolina State was, Mark Gottfried said to me, and I've known him a long time, he said, my team is so good, and yet at times mentally fragile. And I think that the job he's done in just making his guys believe, going all the way back to the opening of our telecast today when he said, you're good enough to be here.
They had to play their way into this tournament at the ACC tournament, did that.
On Friday, Clark and Sims combined for 36 points. Today, they have 8. Thompson. Big time 3 for Hollis Thompson. Timeout. 60 seconds left. And Georgetown has cut it to 4. That was an absolute must. Hollis now has 23. He's keeping the Hoyas in it. There you see our game reset. NC State is in the 1-and-1 the rest of the way. But that bucket by Hollis Thompson gives them hope. He has 17 points in this half, Mike. Hollis Thompson, only 13 for the rest of the Hoyas.
And why it's so difficult, it was a handoff to him, and it's 6'8" to shoot the 3. He can elevate over most people. Now, a good player, but Leslie is the one who usually inbounds. He can run the floor, but he's also not a great free throw shooter, so you take him out of the equation there. Boy, and they just funneled it right to Howell. Yeah. What a terrific play by Georgetown to get the worst free throw shooter on the floor with the ball in his hands. I can't figure out why Scott Wood was all the way down the other end of the floor.
63% for Howell. He is perfect today. Whittington got the foul, his 3rd. C.J. Williams comes in for Wood. His father's in the military. He spends a lot of time coming to games, a retired military man. Now back in Georgia, comes to see all of his games.
Didn't look like a 63% shooter there. That was pretty solid.
I think in the case of Howell and Leslie, their shoulders became much broader in the last 3 to 4 weeks. He gets one of the 2, and it's 62 to 57. The dump down to Sims over Howell.
Well, now Sims can be aggressive. He can play the way he wants to with the last minute.
Howell needs help. Gets it to Lorenzo Brown, and quickly the foul given up. I don't think John Thompson wanted the foul that quickly by Porter, but he's going to have to live with it. First foul on Otto.
Well, he thought that Howell was in a bad way, and they threw the ball to him. The referees couldn't see that he was calling timeout. But you know what? If you're Howell, Tim, unless you got somebody wide open, you need to take a look around and be a little slow getting the ball inbounds to make sure your team is set up correctly.
It took that long, Mike, for Sims to finally score. Amazing to think they were this deep into the game before Henry Sims got a bucket. Oh, the iron so unkind to Brown at NC State.
1 for 3 in the last minute.
A 3 could tie it. And I believe we have Howell with a foul off the ball against Sims. That's his 4th.
Only the 16 foul, so not shooting yet.
Yep. And Painter's going to come in very quickly.
Yeah, just riding him right out. And not, we talked about them wanting to force Sims off the block, but not when he's already assumed position down there.
Huge sequence here for the Hoyas. Sims decides to drive on Painter. Would have counted had it gone. Foul is against Deshaun Painter.
Well, you know what, and a lot of guys, with the way the game has gone for him, might not have been able to play this way, but Sims showing me a lot here. He's been very aggressive in the last minute, kind of unbridled a little bit. You see, they wanted that chance for the three-point play desperately. Sims 70% from the line.
Lorenzo Brown, boy, what must he be thinking about that free throw that didn't go down a second ago? He was halfway down the cylinder and came out. And now Sims with a chance to cut it to 1. Some cannot bear to watch along the bench.
Still, you got to be solid with the basketball, taking it out. Quick foul by Georgetown.
Each team with 1 timeout. Whittington checks in, Sims out.
Key thing, though, Timmy, for next foul is the 10th one for Georgetown, so NC State will get 2 free throws.
Leslie triggers it in. He gets it to Wood, and he's fouled. Mark Godfrey was going to make sure where Wood was this time.
Yeah, no, definitely in the play.
Came up as a player for Wimp Sanderson back at Alabama. His father, Mark Godfrey's dad, Joe, is past athletic director at South Alabama. His uncle, Mike Godfrey, an outstanding football analyst and former football coach at Pittsburgh. Family's from Crestline, Ohio. Here's Wood at the line.
And it's a subtle thing, but those 2 free throws instead of a 1-on-1 take a little pressure off that first one.
Big for Wood right here. Only one of the 2. What do you think, Mike? What do you think?
I think your senior, Clark. Although Thompson's been the guy, one of those 2.
And a timeout taken by Georgetown. 24 ticks remaining. It'll come down to a final possession in Columbus, Ohio. Tim Brando, Mike Jaminski with a ticket to the Sweet 16 at stake. What do you anticipate from Georgetown here?
Well, I think you give yourself a shot with some time to get an offensive rebound as well. Now, Hollis Thompson's been your best scorer at his size. I like him down on the low post or Clark off the dribble. One thing NC State's talking about now, the one question that John Thompson may have, really that question, you go for the win here or the tie. And with Sims in foul trouble, that may be the only thing that maybe makes you think about trying to go for the win with a 3 here, but I think they'd look at a 2.
Only 1/10 of a second between the shot clock and the game clock. They could basically hold it for the last one if they want. Sims, back outside, Porter's got it. He'll take a tough shot. Rebound taken away by Lorenzo Brown, and he's fouled.
That was really solid defense by C.J. Leslie. We talked about it. Porter had been quiet in this game, trying to take the game into his hands.
Fifth foul on Sims, too. Final game, we touched on it yesterday in our conversation. It is so difficult on seniors, especially at this time.
Well, it ain't the final game yet.
No, it's not.
The way the free throw shooting has been going for NC State.
No question.
Let's not put this one in the barn. There it was. You see the step up. That was a tough jump shot to make. Howell gives it a little bit of a help, too. Cuts off the driving lane.
And Lorenzo, who stepped up there last time and saw the ball go halfway through the cylinder and then come out. But he does have two, not a 1-and-1 here. 2 out of 5 at the line today. %'s not so bad, according to Deshaun Painter over there.
You know, it's funny. Lorenzo Brown wants some noise, and I don't blame him either.
Got them both. How about that explosion?
That is a big-time job. Big-time coming back. Missing one earlier.
11 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. A 4-point lead for NC State. North Carolina State does have the 4-point lead, but we've seen stranger things happen, partner.
Well, and here's the question, Tal. If you're Mark Gottfried, do you foul in this situation? But, you know, the most they can do is get a 3. So you're gonna play without fouling. They've got no timeouts. You're gonna guard the 3-point line. You've got to carry it end to end. So I like the fact you put Alex Johnson up there. Don't foul in this situation, but try to waste some clock. They're gonna come up and make it hard on Clark to get the entry.
Rag the ball, correct? Just rag the dribbler.
Just try to take as much time off as possible.
No timeouts for the Hoyas. Clark all the way to the rack.
Yep, not a bad play. Only 4 seconds off.
6 seconds left. Brown's got it again. He'll have to do it again. Clark fouls him. Or I think they may have whistled, actually, Hollis Thompson instead.
Again, Tim, they're back at the same spot. 4.6. Plenty of time to get the ball up if one of these is missed. Then that comes into play if you take the foul early on in the backcourt.
You did it once. Can you do it again? 2 shots. He's shaking his head. No way. I got this.
Again, I think if you miss this, you've got to wrap somebody up quick. I think the foul in that situation is the right move.
Missed it. There's time. Ian Clark's going to bring it the distance. Jason Clark's got it for 3. No! North Carolina State heads to the Sweet 16.
I gotta say, I might have, you know, it comes out and I would have fouled in that situation to try to cut that time in half. They'd had no timeouts for an inbounds play, but Clark had a very makeable shot at the end there.
What a moment for North Carolina State University.
But congratulations to the Wolfpack. Talked about it. They had to play their way in at the ACC tournament, and they are on to the Sweet 16.
They fell by 10 early. They were down by 10 points, then just managed to navigate themselves back in it. Had some help from the foul difficulty for Henry Sims and a poor shooting afternoon for Jason Clark. There you see our bracket in the Midwest. North Carolina State punches its ticket to St. Louis. Mark Gottfried told them in his pregame conversation, we've got an airplane, a hotel room, and flights and food waiting for you in St. Louis.
Well, fluff up those pillows and turn down the beds. The Wolfpack coming to St. Louis.
4 Wolfpack players in double figures. And a victory that they'll be talking about for some time in Raleigh, North Carolina. Lorenzo Brown, the big story, with 12 points, 6 boards, and 7 assists. Here's that final sequence. Once again, Jason Clark could not get it to go. NC State represents the ACC in the Sweet 16. For Mike Jaminski, Otis Livingston, Tim Brando coming up on CBS. It's Michigan State and St. Louis. We'll send you to our New York studios right after these messages. You're watching the road to the Final Four on CBS.
Right move.
Missed it. There's time. Ian Clark's going to bring it the distance. Jason Clark's got it for three. No! North Carolina State heads to the Sweet 16.
Hello once again, everyone, and welcome to our New York studios and the road to the Final Four. I'm Greg Gumbel, joined by Greg Anthony, Kenny Smith, Charles Barkley, and our special guest this weekend, St. John's head coach Steve Lavin. You saw the action wind down. First, let's remind you, coming up next here on CBS, St. Louis against the top seed Michigan State. That's coming up next here on CBS. Meanwhile, NC State on to the Sweet 16, 66-63. Well-coached game down the stretch.
You know, by both teams, really, you got to give them a lot of credit in terms of execution. Really impressed with what the Wolfpack were able to do from the standpoint. Look, they only had a +4 points in the paint advantage, but their ability to attack the rim and the offensive glass gave them a +6 point advantage from the free throw line. To me, those are points in the paint as well. And I thought overall they defended the three well, and they dominated on the interior. Kenny, you talked about that. Not having Sims out there for the majority of that game obviously didn't help Georgetown, but give credit to the Wolfpack.
Yeah, the Wolfpack did a great job. And, you know, this is what they've done down the stretch. You know, as we see the missed free throw here, and Georgetown has an opportunity to tie the game and send it to overtime, but just a little bit long. But I just think overall, the Wolfpack's versatility down the stretch over the last 2 and 3 weeks of the season has been very impressive, and this was indicative of what they've been doing. I really thought that they would have gone to the ACC title game if C.J. Leslie didn't foul out against North Carolina. This would a team that we would have been probably higher seed and wouldn't have been waiting in that last minute like they were. Oh, we're in or not. This team is something to reckon with because you can't prepare for bigs who can handle the ball.
Well, if you look, I actually thought Georgetown fell in love with the jump shots in the first half. Sims got in foul trouble, but he only got 3 field goal attempts. So he never could really get in any type of a rhythm. Yeah, foul trouble hurt that a little bit, but I thought they should have did a better job. They shot too many jumpers. You know, Coach Thompson talked about it. Mike Jaminski talked about it. They just became jump shot happy, and I think it really affected Mr. Sims because he never got going or even got involved in the game.
Coach, we sat here and we watched and waited for Georgetown to make a move, and NC State just didn't let them do it.
Well, well-prepared, well-devised defensive scheme. It's tough on a short turnaround, the NCAA tournament, when you play on a Friday, come back Sunday, and play a unique system like the spread court, Princeton, or now Georgetown offense. Mark Gottfried gapped up, did a nice job of getting a hand on shooters, but similar to 8 in the box in football, forcing you to throw the ball as opposed to run the ball. And I thought that was the key. They jammed the lanes. They took away all Georgetown's back cuts. And then the length and the quickness at the rim of North Carolina State, I think, surprised Georgetown. Until you see that speed and that length, you can't simulate in practice. And again, Mark Gottfried, a year ago, North Carolina State, 5-11. They go 9-7 in the ACC this year, and now they're in the Sweet 16 with a chance to go to the Final Four. He's had a remarkable turnaround.
They move on to play the winner of the Kansas-Purdue matchup. Once again, NC State 66-63 over Georgetown. Just a short while ago, Otis Livingston with Coach Gottfried and Lorenzo Brown.
Coach, what a fantastic finish. Take us through the emotions as that last shot was going up by Jason Clark.
Well, it was tough, but it was a tough shot. It was a long one. Our guys have played with so much heart and character. We all say that, but our team has really done that. It's a gutsy win. I'm just so proud of my whole team for their effort.
Coach, I know you're going to say that there's plenty of work left to be done, but this is your first season at NC State, and you're going to the Sweet 16. That has to be very special.
Well, it is special. I told our guys, they got hotel rooms, we got an airplane, they got a game for us up there. We need to go play in St. Louis.
All right, thanks a lot. Enjoy it, Coach. I'm going to talk to Lorenzo Brown, the star of today's game. And Lorenzo's second year at NC State, and you're headed to the Sweet 16.
It's an amazing feeling. My coach told me he wanted me to point guard this year. I played shooting guard last year. But, I mean, I stepped up to my team today, and we're going to Sweet 16.
We're saying that that is the most important decision. One of the first decisions that Mark Gottfried made was to assign you to be the point guard, and here you are paying him back with this effort today.
I mean, I know it was a tough decision for him. We didn't have too many guys to handle the ball, but we got Alex Johnson, a transfer this year, and he does a great job as well as me.
All right, you're headed to the Sweet 16. Congratulations.
Thank you.
As you take a look at the bracket, Coach, I know you mentioned it before, but you got to give a lot of credit to Mark Gottfried the way he turned this program around in 1 year.
You know, he assembled an outstanding staff, including Bobby Lutz, former coach at Charlotte. He's had some outstanding recruiters as well on his staff. So I think the time away between Alabama and North Carolina State, he spent some time in television. You look at the game through a different prism or lens, and like a sabbatical, I think he came back refreshed, regenerated, and he did a nice job with the pieces left behind. Sidney Lowe put those pieces in place, but what you do with them, a lot of credit goes to Mark Gottfried for that.
Kind of like your sabbatical.
Yeah, mine was a little longer. Mine was a 7-year sabbatical.
And we're talking about Mark Gottfried and the turnaround that he has had for NC State. Listen to the coach in the pregame.
I told you this the other day, and I believe with all my heart. You're good enough. You're good enough to do this. You're good enough to advance. There's a plane waiting for you to take you to St. Louis. There's hotel rooms waiting for you. There's a game waiting for you to be played in St. Louis.
Here we go. Together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Together. Let's go.
That's great. The funny thing about that is once you reach the Sweet 16, you're no longer under the radar, are you?
Yeah, you know what? But that's indicative of what we talked about the other day in terms of confidence. Like, really the most difficult challenge, I think, for a coach oftentimes is to get your kids to really believe that they're capable of winning.
Well, and you saw that.
And you see that, Coach. I know you've gone through it. Don't you think that's one of the most difficult challenges? One that we're seeing accomplished more and more. That's why we have so much parity.
Sure, yeah. Confidence, swagger. You want to infuse your team with the belief that they can win. And then it's about executing, because now it's going to come down to playing at pace. And I thought North Carolina State offense, we talked about the defense jamming the lane, taking away the back cuts, but yet still close enough to contest Georgetown on the perimeter. They took Sims completely out of his game as well, but they also executed well offensively. Late in the game, they got good looks at the basket.
And back home on the NC State campus, do you think maybe they're thinking about all the way back to 1983 and what happened with the North Carolina State Wolfpack back then?